What is the most pathetic thing you've seen someone do for attention? I knew a woman who, as a college student, went to Australia for a semester. She came back with the accent and kept it. When I knew her, this had been going on for more than 5 years. She was from North Carolina. So, you blokes and Sheilas, what are your stories? On Sister's wedding day, our aunt put herself into diabetic shock on purpose. Ambulance came, she could have died. Sister had to administer to her until ambulance showed up. Sister is a nurse. All because people were paying attention to the bride instead of her. Jeez, that's terrible. I was playing cello at a wedding where the bride's mom apparently disapproved of the wedding and had threatened to make a fuss. She wore black. Then during the whole ceremony, she cried loudly, shook her head, and muttered at the vows, etc. It turns out that she had done this at all of her children's weddings, though I think she might just be a terrible person. Come on, people, don't ruin other people's weddings. In college, I was walking to class one day, and there's this frat bro going the same direction in front of me. Coming the opposite way is a very attractive woman in business attire. She was a bit older than the average college student, maybe late 20s, early 30s, and about 1 billion times classier than frat bro. Frat bro stops the lady and starts trying to chat her up, asking for her number right off the bat. He's hitting on her like she's a freshman and not understanding why he's making no progress whatsoever. After a brief exchange and a polite dismissal from the lady, she continues on her way, leaving frat bro dejected. Then I see the wheels start turning in his head. He's standing there with his hand on his chin, pondering how this woman could possibly have not been seduced by his charm. And suddenly his eyes light up as though he's had the most brilliant flash of insight in his entire life. He removes his shirt, shouts, "Hey!" And when the lady turns around, flexes with all his might. She rolls her eyes and resumes walking away. I absolutely lost it at this pathetic display. I got a smile and a wink from the woman as she walked past me, almost crying from laughing so hard. I've never seen such an absolutely pathetic expression on a person's face as that guy afterward. The world needs more people like this guy, frankly. I love the idea of just seeing people making absolute fools of themselves in public just so I can have a good laugh. When I was in high school, there was a pretty bad bus accident when a bus driver fell asleep at the wheel and a lot of people were hurt, some very badly. One girl was in a coma and sustained brain damage. Another walks permanently with a limp and has facial scarring. One guy had the bones in 2 of his fingers crushed, and now the mobility in his hand is permanently affected. I went to a really small high school, and it was a pretty big deal. It was a national news story for a few days, too. If you're curious, pretty much everyone on that bus that crashed sued anyone who was remotely associated with the accident, from the owner of the bus company to the teachers who were on the bus with the students, and some people got quite a bit of money. Anyway, there was one girl who claimed all sorts of damage from the accident. She came back to school wearing a brace on her leg and her arm and would cry if anyone mentioned the accident and made up terrific stories about the crash itself and the nightmares she was having, and would just go on in a really ridiculous way about the accident. Come to find out, she wasn't even on the bus that crashed. She was on another bus. In the scramble/craziness after the accident, she went to the accident and pretended to have been on the bus and made up all of her injuries. Jesus! Looks like we just found the line between pathetic and downright awful human being. If you look a little ways past that line, there she is. This girl in high school I was kind of friends with liked this guy in her math class. To get his attention, she fell out of her desk in the middle of class. Then she did it the next day. And the next day. That was her plan to get him to ask her to prom. It didn't work. A girl at my school faked a brain tumor. Well, tried to. She told everyone that her mom had texted her saying that she had cancer, then came in the next day saying she'd had her operation and had the tumor removed. When asked why they didn't shave her head, she said it was because she asked them not to. Oh, okay. I saw an overweight college girl ride a mechanical bull at a bar wearing a really short skirt and no underwear. When she fell off, she took a long time getting up, using every opportunity she could to roll around with her legs above her head / bend way over. The entire bar ground to a halt and watched this girl drunkenly fooling around trying to stand up while exposing herself as much as possible. When she finally got up, she looked around and realized that everyone in the bar had the same shocked / traumatized expression on their face. And she burst into tears and ran and hid in the bathroom. She had probably been planning that all week. My teacher was reading passages from books, and one of them was about a girl who was adopted, and this one girl, Rebecca, ran out of the room crying. Later that day, she made the teacher apologize for talking about adopted kids because she was adopted. Get that attention. There's so many of these stories from my high school. One of my teachers was a very well-respected historian, and he was teaching a class about civil rights, and he said, "I'm going to say the N-word, but not out of disrespect. You just need to understand the exact examples I'm giving, okay?" Then, when he said that the signs would say, "Keep blank out of our schools," a group of 2 to 3 black girls stood up and ran out screaming, hell no, no he didn't, that racist butt white boy, etc. They tried getting him in trouble with the administration, but they were like, no, he's teaching you about civil rights. Okay, I'm sorry, I get historical context and stuff, but why exactly did he need to say a racial slur? What exactly was that teaching? It sounds more like an excuse like, well, it's not like I'm saying it, someone else said it, and there's no way for you to know that unless I get to say it. My girlfriend's sister, we'll call her Carrie for the sake of these stories, is the queen of doing unnecessary, pathetic things to get attention. She over-dramatizes everything and does whatever she can to bring the attention to her. When there's nothing to over-dramatize, she just makes crap up. About herself, about her family, about her friends, about whoever or whatever. Just blatantly lies for attention. My favorite example? A guy Carrie barely knew in college and who's several years older than her, but ran in a similar social circle, unexpectedly committed self-termination after a fight with his then-girlfriend one night. It was a really sad event on campus. He was a really great guy that was widely known and widely liked. However, he was diagnosed mentally ill, depression, and schizophrenia, was off his meds for some reason, and was drinking heavily with disastrous results. All of a sudden, Carrie is hyper-depressed and telling everyone that will listen that she was having a secret romantic relationship with him, that they were in love, that he was planning on leaving his girlfriend for her, and that they were planning on eloping together. She started telling everyone about how much she missed him, how she couldn't stand to be alone, etc., etc. His girlfriend caught wind and confronted Carrie about it publicly. Carrie started to back off, saying, okay, maybe I overstated how involved we were. I made the stuff up about eloping, but we definitely were hooking up, and he told me he loved me. When pressed further, she started to ramp down her story more and more. Okay, we only hooked up once, but he said he really liked it and wanted to do it again. Then, okay, we never hooked up, but we spent a lot of time together privately, and I really cared about him. It finally came down to, okay, fine, I only met him once at a party and we barely talked, but I liked him and wished I could have spent more time with him. Are you happy? Why do you have to be so mean? I was just trying to feel like I fit in. Who cares if I made a few things up about him? It made me feel like I was part of his life. So she was spreading lies about this kid who had just died, and even after she was called out on her BS, she still needed to make it about her and how everyone is so mean to her and how she didn't deserve to be treated like that, etc. Just one of many such examples. Good Lord, that is atrocious. And also, like, how does a person lie like that and have any actual friends or anything? Sounds like maybe she has like a mental illness or something, but still, hard to excuse something in that bad of taste. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day. I was talking to a girl at a bar who I honestly was not remotely interested in, and this douche who I don't even know walks up and says, "Hey, what's up? Oh, dude, am I C-blocking you?" I've had that happen when I was talking to my girlfriend. Apparently, it was one of her friends I hadn't met, and he was interested in her. I looked him in the eye and said, "No." And then I continued talking to my girlfriend as if he wasn't there. Most of the people I have met who are ex-military and were special forces, SEALs, Rangers, etc., I swear, it seems that 98% of the people who served claim to have been in the top 5% of eliteness. I was an officer in the military. My group and I belonged to the bottom 5%. Somehow we were the stooges of the military, crashing vehicles, breaking $75,000 antennas, using rifles as brake blocks, stealing a military truck, drive to town and start bar fights with scumbags. One guy hit a moose with his grenade launcher and we spent the rest of the exercise picking moose from the training ground. One guy botched a grenade toss and a higher-ranking officer ended up in the hospital with shrapnel in his butt. It all would have been quite funny and stupid, but we also had a self-termination among us, which makes it less fun to remember sometimes. Freshman year, so this totally should have worked. This very cute girl who had plenty of guys flirting with her randomly starts talking about her nipple piercings. The conversation hadn't been about tattoos or piercings. No one says anything. She starts kind of cradling her breasts and tells everyone that she's got charms on the piercings. No one says anything. She asks us if we want to see them. No one says anything. Spent the next few minutes looking really sad, still cradling her boobs. I almost took pity on her, but if the guys didn't want to see and I actually didn't want to see, why bother? Oh, come on. You can't just look at a boob to make someone feel good about themselves. Sometimes it's not about the boobs you want to see, but the boobs that want to be seen. Did you ever think about that? Supportive friends look at their friends' boobs. Worst one I've got is an old friend who lied about being in the parachute regiment, British Army. He spouted his usual, yeah, we parachuted into X and Y with GPMGs and that, yada yada. No tactical drops have been executed in years. I just let him roll with it. I couldn't be bothered to argue with him on principle that he was a butt. Anyway, we ended up going out one night, and a couple of my friends who happened to be paras and went into the regiment roughly the time he said he did, come drinking with us. Anyway, sparking up some conversation, the two were in on this, about army days, he starts chucking it in. Yeah, it was this and that. And then the two guys stop deadpan and go, so, you said you jumped in Nation X? First bat never jumped there. This being said, as they both rolled up their right sleeve and there, proudly displayed, was the para logo with first underneath. I've never seen someone retract into his chair so quickly. After we left the bar, he decided to go home as he wasn't feeling well. Always funny to remind him of that when his ego gets a tad too big. Fake panic attacks. I had a class with a girl in college who would fake a panic attack every time we had a quiz/exam. She would get to leave and take the test on a later date. She'd study for an extra day or two and ace the quiz. What a blank. A girl my friend knows pretended to have cancer for 6 months, convinced everyone, got sympathy from everyone, got her friends to drive her to the hospital, shaved her head. The whole thing fell apart when someone phoned her mom to ask how her treatment was going. The mom had no idea what they were talking about. She even had get well pages set up on Facebook. Pretty effed up, bro. Hey, people pretending to be sick, why are you still bothering in this day and age with the internet and everything? You're going to get caught, you pathetic dolts. A girl I went to school with, called Lauren, had lived in Cyprus for a year when she was about 8. When she went to college, she obviously wanted to reinvent herself. She started introducing herself to everyone as Lorenza and called herself a Cypriot. She would get really angry whenever any of her old school friends would visit and call her Lauren. This is going to get buried, but I'll share anyway. A few years ago, I was sitting on the couch in the living room feeding my baby when I heard my sister-in-law come in the front door. She was crying and my mom, concerned, asked her what was wrong. She then claimed tearfully that I had just tried to run her down in my car. I can only imagine the look on her face as my loud, "What the F?" came from the next room. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.